Hello, and welcome to the Manure Maiden podcast. My name is Tabitha. I am the co-director of Esperanza Sanctuary here in Sky Valley, California. And today, our episode is about cardboard, calories, and community, feeding soil without burning out. Hey, friends, welcome back to Manure Maiden, the podcast where we talk about poop, plants, cardboard, and the very real logistics of feeding people in a system that was not designed to make that easy. If you have ever stood next to a sad compost pile thinking, why do you smell like death when I gave you love? Then this episode is absolutely for you. If you've ever planted a bunch of things because Instagram told you to, and then you realize that you don't actually eat Swiss chard, it's also for you. And if you've ever wondered how compost, food sovereignty, safety, and community are all connected, you're absolutely in the right place. So today we are talking about cardboard as a carbon source, how to stop fighting your compost pile, why food production has to be planned like nutrition and not vibes, and what community actually means when we say it here at Esperanza Sanctuary. So let's get into it. So let's talk about why cardboard is not trash, it's infrastructure. So let's start with cardboard because this is where a lot of people either overthink or underuse one of the most powerful compost tools available. Cardboard is carbon, clean, boring, reliable carbon. And most households already have it coming in weekly, if not more. Amazon boxes, Chewy boxes, appliance boxes, Costco boxes. Shout out to my Costco hoes. If it once held something and it does not have plastic coating, glossy ink, or food grease, it's probably usable. The mistake that a lot of people make is treating cardboard like an emergency fix instead of a system. If you're ripping up cardboard only when your compost smells bad, you're already kind of behind. So efficient cardboard use looks more like this. I'm going to break it down as soon as it comes into my house. I'm going to rip the staples out. I'm going to set it off to the side. And then I'm going to remove any tape or labels. Once I've done that, I'm not going to be the old school. I have a Ryobi trimmer and it's the best $50 I think I've spent in a long time. I will use that immediately to basically strip it into like 1-inch strips. This takes maybe 1 to 2 minutes and it's done. Then I can take it out when we've accumulated a basket full, which does not take very long around here, especially when we're doing edible food recovery. And we put it through our chipper. If you don't have a chipper, you can use a shredder. A lot of home shredders now offer a cardboard function. Then you store it in a dry bin, bag, or in a trash can. So think of it like pre-chopping vegetables. You're setting the future up for success, the future you, I should say. So let's talk about the size. So obviously whole sheets of cardboard don't compost efficiently unless they're in a large space. They mat repel water and suffocate your pile if you just shove a piece on top of it. Smaller pieces create air pockets, prevents anaerobic rot. And anaerobic rot is that rotten egg smell, that sulfury smell that your compost gets when it's begging you for oxygen and carbon. And if you want to level up, you can pre-soak your cardboard before adding it. Wet cardboard breaks down faster and balances wet food scraps immediately. At Esperanza's, we do not treat cardboard as waste. We treat it as a stabilizer. It lets us accept food scraps, manure, spoiled produce, and community drop-offs without the pile turning into a biohazard. It also makes it much more pleasant for us when we're out there and we're loving on our piles and they don't smell like rancid rotten eggs. Cardboard is what makes community composting possible at scale, especially when access to wood chips or mulch is harder. So let's talk about compost troubleshooting without shame. And I think this is a big one because oftentimes when we're doing our community outreach or any of our educational events, there's always those 1 or 2 people that'll kind of raise their hand a little bit and then they will bring up some of their problems. And they say them as if they're expecting shame and judgment. And then there's like this unanimous response from everybody else who's tried composting that it happened to them too. So problem 1, because these are never failures, they're just technical difficulties. Your compost smells bad. So that usually means that we have too much nitrogen and not enough carbon or not enough air. So how do we fix it? We add shredded cardboard and we turn the pile, not once, but actually mixing it in. The second common problem that we deal with is that the compost is dry and it's not doing anything. And that means that we have too much carbon and not enough moisture. So we do have a ratio. We want about 60% carbon and 40% nitrogen. So 60% browns, 40% greens. And these are by volume, not weight. So you need to match those ratios by volume. Now, when we don't have enough moisture, it's because the carbon has absorbed it. So how do we fix that? We add water slowly while we turn our pile. Otherwise, we will end up with a section of our pile that is moistened, but not the whole thing. Your compost should feel like a wrung out sponge, not like dust and not like something that is sopping wet. Problem 3, the pile is attracting flies or rodents, and that means that food scraps are exposed. So you can fix it by burying the food waste in the center of the pile and capping with cardboard, leaves, finished compost, hay, straw, tarps in some areas. This allows you to prevent access to them. You can also create a cap using hardware cloth. Now, if they're getting into the side of your pile, you may want to reinforce it with hardware cloth because rodents can't chew through that. So you're not able to have that level of access. This is also the same for dogs because dogs are still going to go after those same food scraps. Dogs can do more damage, but rodents will actually nest inside of your compost piles if they're not being cared for properly. So problem 4, your pile is not heating up. And that means that your ratios are off or your pile is too small. You need volume to hold heat. So a tiny pile is never going to cook. Ideally, the smallest pile that you'll go for is 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. You can go larger, but obviously you need to be able to turn things. So if it's more than 4 feet tall, you're going to have a really hard time turning that pile, which means that you're less likely to do it or do it efficiently. Another thing that I have on that note is a lot of times when we are turning, sometimes certain piles, and it's not even to say that it's not the same type of system that you might be using. If you've got like 2 or 3 geo bins or 2 or 3 smart stacks, or you have a 3-bin system, one of them just might be a little technical difficulty prone. And when we have situations like that, if it's in a geo bin or it's in a smart stack, we're actually going to remove the exterior framing. We'll replace it somewhere else. And then we are going to turn our pile by taking all of the outside edges and mixing them with the middle as we're putting all of that pile into where we set the new frame at. That can allow us to make sure that we're getting proper air, we're watering as we go so we have proper moisture, and if our ratios are off, we're adding in whatever it is that we might need to help it cook. So here at Esperanza's, we teach people that compost is not about perfection, it's about balance and observation. If you're checking your pile and adjusting it, you're already doing it right. Sometimes it's just a little bit more about the more you know. So now let's shift into something that a lot of people don't want to hear, especially in our microwave society. But we absolutely need to. And I am absolutely guilty of doing this as well. Food sovereignty is not planting random things and hoping for the best. As much as I love chaos and chaos gardening, there needs to be a little bit more. It's planning what you actually eat. What do you actually enjoy eating, not just what you think you should be eating? How much space does it take, and how often is it produced? Or how often does it produce? You don't need 20 tomato plants if you eat tomatoes twice a week. You might need more beans than kale if beans are your primary source of protein. You might need shade-producing plants before you need herbs. So we see people burn out a lot when they're gardening because they grow what looks good instead of what feeds them. And here at Esperanza's, we teach people that food production is like this. What does your household actually eat on a weekly basis? What can realistically grow in our climate? How much space does each plant need? How often does it produce? And how much labor does it require? So a zucchini plant can take up to 4 square feet and feed a family fast. A head of lettuce feeds you once. And that's if you're just using a head of lettuce and not leaf lettuce, because leaf lettuce you can plant a few and harvest off of. But it doesn't mean that lettuce is bad. It means that we plan it and we plant it intentionally. And this matters because soil, compost, water, and labor are finite resources, especially for people with limited time, money, or physical capacity. If you don't have a lot of spoons going in, we want spoon-friendly plants for you to grow and eat. Food sovereignty is not about growing everything. It's about growing strategically. Now let's talk about what is unbelievably near and dear to my heart and a huge driving force behind our mission here at Esperanza's, which is community is not aesthetic, it is safety. Community is at our heart. It's not a buzzword, it's not an event, and it's not matching t-shirts. Community is knowing where food comes from. Community is sharing resources. Community is not relying on systems that can collapse or exclude you. Community is caring for land so it can care for people back. When we compost together, we reduce waste, build soil, and reduce costs. When we garden together, we share knowledge and reduce food insecurity. When we plan food production together, we build resilience. Community means that you are not alone when your compost pile fails, or when your crops fail, or when money is tight. At Esperanza's, we build systems that work for real humans, people with kids, people with jobs, people with disabilities, people who do not have unlimited time or money. Compost is one of the most accessible entry points into that work. If your takeaway from today is this, you're doing great. Save your cardboard. Shred it early. Feed your compost consistently. Plan food like nourishment and not aesthetics. Build systems that support your real life. If you want help troubleshooting your compost, planning a foodscape, or building a system that actually feeds your household, that is what we do at Esperanza Sanctuary. This is not about being perfect. It is about being prepared, supported, and grounded. Thank you for listening to Manure Maiden. Go check your compost pile. It's probably trying to tell you something.